Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio. I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. And when I started this show in 2008, I was on a mission to promote women-owned businesses and help women succeed by providing resources and valuable tips from other women and men, small business owners. In each interview, my guests speak openly about their triumphs, the scary times, and tough decisions they had to make along the way. Women Entrepreneurs Radio is about showing women how to harness their natural strengths to achieve success on their own terms. Hi everyone, welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio, and I'm your host, Deborah Bailey, and once again I'm joined by my co-host, Kerry Heaps. And just to let you know, you can find this show on iTunes and also at dbcoach.podomatic.com. And if you listen on iTunes, I hope that you will like the show, leave a review. Reviews will help the show be found by more listeners. So if you can do that, that would really be helpful and really be great. And also visit womenentrepreneursecrets.com for more information about the show guests and posts of interest to women entrepreneurs. And you'll also find a list of platforms the show is on and information on how to become a guest. So there are also other platforms the show is distributed to through Libsyn, that is including the older shows in the archive, because this year is the 10th year of the show. So you will find some other shows there as well from other women and men entrepreneurs. So I hope that you will check that out. And also, for myself, I'm a writer and a coach. You'll find more information about my services on dbaileycoach.com, which is including my new Find Your Path coaching for professionals going through work and life transitions. And also you'll see a couple of coaching consulting programs for entrepreneurs who are looking to write and publish a book to promote their business. So you can go there to find more information about that. So I'm going to introduce my co-host, veteran entrepreneur, 14 years. Kerry Heaps is a publisher of Pageant Platform Magazine and a host of Pageant Platform Podcast. And she's the founder of Kerry Studio, a full-service pageant training company that offers trained women ages 16 plus all over the world. Her passion is to help women succeed in pageantry, build a successful platform, and use it to build a successful career or business after exiting pageantry. She's a former owner of Strictly Marketing Magazine and host of Strictly Marketing Talk Radio. And she's also the founder of Pitch Like a Bitch Media, an online resource to gain more media exposure, and the author of Pitch Like a Bitch, Top 10 Tips to Pitch Like a Pro, which was published in May 2018, and the Create Your Own Media series for podcasting, publishing, and publicity. Kerry has an extensive background in sales, networking, recruiting, and training. And she's a former model who specialized in trade show and print work and an experienced judge on the beauty pageant circuit. So welcome back to the show, Kerry.
As always, it's such a pleasure to be here with you, Deb, and just really excited and fired up for this topic. I got a lot to say.
Yes.
And I would like for everyone to know I am not sipping out of a coconut sitting on the beach. I'm sitting in front of my laptop. I got some tea here, just like Kermit, and I'm ready to roll.
So I will just explain to everyone. We're talking about sipping out of a coconut because this particular topic we're discussing is, I could say the myth is what I kind of called it, of being able to up-level to a six-figure business, and by working less hours and spending more time at the beach. So that's the whole idea around this conversation, which also brought up images of sitting in hammocks and sipping on coconut. Coconut drinks or whatever you're doing. That's very much the image that is sold to people online. I'm sure you follow people online. If you're a business owner, I know I do. And, this idea is pretty pervasive. I personally feel it's destructive to people who are in business or coming into business who have this idea that, they can hit these, numbers, and do less and less and less and less work. It seems like that idea is sold so much. And I think that if you don't know any better, it could sound really credible because it seems like other people are living that way from what they present on Instagram.
Yeah.
So I'm just setting that up because I'm really anxious to get your take on this, Kerry. So I'm just setting that up there for the listener. But you know, what is your feeling about this? Because, you know, we both have, I guess been out here for a little bit and we've seen all these different people come and go. You know, what are your thoughts about this particular topic?
Oh boy, how long is the podcast again? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, you know, and you and I have talked prior to the show about this, and it's definitely, it's a problem. I can't express it enough. It's nothing you do worthwhile, even becoming an entrepreneur. For some reason, there's still that stigma out there that people think that this is going to be an easy journey, that you're going to make lots of money, that you're going to, you know, you can take off when you want. And that is true. You can make a lot of money. You can take off when you want, but don't make any mistake. There's going to be tons of hard work involved. You might be working an 80-hour week for 6 weeks in a row and then be able to take off half a week, like at the end of the month, and go do whatever you want. That's your choice. But you are going to have to put time and effort in. And when you come back from vacation, that doesn't change. Yes, there are things that you can automate. You can automate your email marketing or something like that. But you are going to have to participate actively in your success. I can't get that through people's heads enough. You have to actively participate in your success. And no matter how much more successful you get, you're going to be even busier. I mean, I've interviewed people, and I know you have too, Deb, but you know, you take Barbara Corcoran. She's a great example. I've interviewed her before on my podcast, and for those who don't know who she is, she's a real estate mogul. She's part of Shark Tank. People see her on, you know, Money and on, you know, just different shows, featured in the news all the time. And, I'm not even sure what her current net worth is. I don't know. I think last time someone checked into it or talked about it, it was something like close to 500 million. But she is one of the hardest working women around. She still gets up early in the morning. She's still working 6 days a week. She's putting in 16, 17 hours sometimes. Can she take off a week and go on vacation? Of course. Does she do that? Yeah. But make no mistake about it, when she comes back, she's not sitting on the beach drinking out of a coconut, and having her business on autopilot. You know, and most really, really successful people will tell you the more success you have, the harder you're going to work, and the harder you have to keep an eye on things because, you know, people in your organization might try to take advantage of you. You know, there is no easy way to do this. I mean, most people who find an easy way get involved in a Ponzi scheme, and then they find themselves in that orange jumpsuit telling a story about how, I didn't think it was going to be like this, you know. So yeah, there's just no easy way. And we see them all the time, and I see them more and more now where people are popping up with these new programs. Oh, pay me. You know, there was one lady, and I may have talked about this on the last time we recorded, but there was a lady who is, you know, a high-level coach who was charging, you know, $10,000 or $15,000 to work with her for 6 months. And, you know, for the people who have that kind of money to invest in that, okay, great. But most of the people that, you know, were interested in that program, or that were, you know, there were tons of people filling out the leads, but they weren't really qualified, and they had to scrape together that money. I think if you have a good rule of thumb is that if you cannot pay for it right then and there, it's not a good fit for you. Trying to find out where you're going to get that money from. Are you pulling it out of your savings? Are you pulling it out of your 401k? don't do it. It's just not going to work. You're not at that level yet. And what's funny is, and ironic, is that here it is, this person, I see them, pop up in my feed a year later, and they're offering a similar program for $97 a month. So that tells me right there that, clearly what you were doing wasn't working.
Right.
So but again, it's all about people have those systems set up and they don't want to I don't want to actually have to have any kind of communication with my client. Well, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
How can you logistically help someone if you don't have a conversation with them? And two, you want to make sure that they're a good fit for you. I mean, I do this myself where I have people fill out a form. Then I have them set up an appointment with me. And I can tell from the get-go whether or not they're going to be a good fit. Number one, did they fill out all the information on the form? No, they didn't. Okay. They're not going to be a good fit. I kind of already know that going into it, going, okay, instead of an hour, I'm going to be on here 15 minutes. And then if they never get back with me about, setting up an appointment, or if they don't, respond, I do one email and I do one call. And if I don't hear back, I tear up their lead and I move on to the next one, because they are not seriously vested in their success.
Right.
So, but again, I mean, there's still some people who would just continually blast emails out to them 4 or 5 times a day until either they unsubscribed or finally signed up. That's not how you want to go about getting clients. And, again, I think people think, well, if I do that enough, then I'll have enough money to sit on the beach and drink coconuts or drink out of a coconut. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I've talked to so many people, so many business people who are struggling right now because they have invested in programs like this, the Sit on the Beach people. They've invested in the Sit on the Beach people's programs, and here it is a year later, they're not sitting on the beach, but they're going to be living there soon because they're either in foreclosure, because they haven't been able to pay their mortgage, because they're following a program that doesn't work. And it's like it's a broken system, but they keep trying to make it work because they invested so much money.
Right.
And you have to cut your losses. And, when I say that I have talked to people who are in a situation like that, because they pulled money out of their 401k, because they pulled money out of their savings. Now they have no money to live on.
Right. You're right.
And they're in worse shape. And if you think for a second that those people who sell the drinking on the beach, coconut people, are going to feel bad about that or feel guilty, if you called them and told them the situation you were in today, it would be your fault. They would say, well, you didn't do the program right. You didn't do this right. You need to up level and invest in this other program where you can get more help. And, they will never say to you, hey, it didn't work for you. Okay. Here's your money back.
You're
it's
right.
not going to happen. It is not going to happen.
You're right. I agree. It's
almost, and I feel compelled to not say this, but I feel like I should. It's almost like the new breed of Ponzi scheme, Deb. If you think about it.
That's an interesting way to describe it, because it's right.
And the reason I say that is because, again, if you went back to these people and told them, hey, I gave you $8,000 of my money, not only is this not working, but I'm in worse shape now than I've ever been, they're going to blame you.
Yeah.
They're going to have the audacity to make you feel guilty and to make you feel bad, and you're not going to get your money back.
Yep. I agree. Cause I had something, with that years ago when I was first out, out here, I could say, and, signed for a program, and it was talking about a client attraction program and mindset and all that stuff. And I was like, well, this really isn't coming together. And the person told me, well, you're not doing it right. Did you read every page in the binder? Blah, 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 blah. And if you don't know any better, if you're just coming out, say, corporate, or you're just starting into this business and you're not sure, and this person is coming across as an expert and authority, then you start to think, maybe I didn't do something right, or maybe I didn't do this right, or you don't really know enough to counter what the person is saying. So that puts you at a disadvantage. And I also remember being on a call with this person where they would have weekly calls with people who were also in the program, and someone asked a question, and the person's response was, you have to buy another program, or go to this person's website and buy their program. And the person was really kind of annoyed and said, why is the answer always, I have to buy another program. Why can't you just answer the question? Because that's what we're paying for.
Yeah.
And that really hit me because most of the people on the call were very fawning and, oh, she's so wonderful and she's so, they weren't getting it. What this person was making the point. And I was like, that's right. There's never an answer. And yet we're on this call to have answers from you from what we pay for. But the answer is always buy something else. Mm-hmm. And that really hit me at the time. I was like, wow, we're never going to get an answer from this person ever because she's really in it just to sell the next program, not really to give us real answers for what we're dealing with in this moment and how we can do this better or how we can, take these tools that she's supposedly giving us and use them. If you have a general question about it, you would think the person would have an answer and she'd never had one.
Yeah.
And, looking back on that, I was like, no, I'm out of this, now. And after that, I was just like done. But, I think a lot of what happened, I could talk about back, a few years ago was I stayed in all these programs because you feel isolated as an entrepreneur. You maybe didn't know a lot of other people who were doing their own thing, not as much information as I believe you started to see after like the financial meltdown, 2008, 2009, 10, you started to see more and more things online that weren't there maybe a couple years before.
Yeah.
So being in these groups and these, membership groups made you feel like a sense of belonging. Even if you weren't always getting the answers you needed, you felt like, well, maybe if I just hang in there, I'll get it. I'll get the answer, or just go to that live event. I'll get more. Mm-hmm. And, they put the success stories on the stage, of people who, have done well, but, I think for a lot of that, you never know what that person has done before they got there. Maybe they were only $1 or $2 away from that big $1 million or 6-figure thing. Or maybe they already had a background in something. Maybe their business was such that they could take these tools and explode it. Well, maybe what you're doing doesn't fit that, that structure. There's a lot of reasons why some people may have success doing this and others don't.
And to piggyback off of that just a little bit is, just to tell people, a lot of times these programs, like you kind of hit the nail on the head, Deb, you feel isolated. And a lot of these programs you're doing this on your own. It's kind of like, here's the information, you implement it. Yeah. And I think too, that's kind of a red flag anymore, is that if you're paying all this information, if you're paying several $1,000s and you're not really, these people aren't helping you implement it. They're giving you the information. They might have a conference call every once in a while or like an online support forum, whatever. But for the most part, you're on your own. You paid for the information. And I think, food for thought, if they're charging over $5,000 for this information, that should tell you something right there. Mm-hmm. Because I think, it's just like with what I've done in the past, like with our, publicity. For many years, I tried to implement a program where here's all the information, you can do this yourself, and it didn't move. And even though I had it priced very well, I was under $500, it still didn't move. Now, once I started implementing it where it was a service that, hey, we'll do this for you, that changed everything. Wow. Because we were taking the work off of the person's plate. So I think, even when people are looking at, if you're looking at one of these programs and you're thinking you're just going to duplicate what they're doing, heed warning, because like I said, people are not, you might sell 1 or 2 programs and you might be making a couple $1,000s off of that, but to sincerely think that you're going to make a lot of money and it's going to be coming in consistently and you're not going to have to work for it, that's not going to work. You're going to have to, again, I go back to what I said before, participate in your own success. And, kudos to the person who stood up and said that on the call, because I think more people need to say that, if they're involved, if you invest all that money in a program and it's not working for you, you shouldn't have to buy more programs. And that's their first rule of thumb. That's what they're taught to do. They're following a process that's broken. That's what they were taught to do. So they're going to teach you to do the same thing, and so on and so on. And it just continues on. It's like a broken top.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what pot you put it on, the top is still broken. So it's just not going to work. But it's almost like, and I don't know, for the people, I like to reference funny movies, but, the movie about Ron Burgundy, The Legend of Ron Burgundy, where Will Ferrell plays the anchorman. There's one scene in there where the guy, he's trying to come on to this woman, and he asked him what cologne he's going to use. Did you ever see that movie?
Actually, no, I haven't. But
okay, well, you gotta see it. It's really funny. It's really stupid funny, though. And it takes place back in the 70s, but this guy, he brings out his whole chest of colognes, and he picks one that it's something about, panther blood or something is the name of the perfume. And supposedly it's made with tiny bits of real panther. And the slogan of the cologne is, this works 100% of the time, 60% of the time. So it's kind of like, that's what it reminds me of, these programs, is that it doesn't smell good to begin with, and it's not going to work at maybe, 60% of the time, if that. So yeah, it's just a broken system, and people keep doing it, and there's more and more people. And I don't know if like I said, I go back to what I said before about it being a Ponzi scheme, because I think, and this is my prediction, I could be wrong, but I think within the next 2 years, you're going to start seeing more people step in federal wise that are going to start investigating this stuff, because there's too many people that are losing their money. I have shared with people that I have talked to people who have pulled money out of their savings. They have pulled money out of their 401k to invest in this kind of foolish stuff. And it not only does it not help them, it makes what situation they're in, it's magnified. It's 10 times worse now.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's going to get to the point where they're going to start getting reported to the Federal Trade Commission, and they're going to start investigating. They're going to have to. They're going to have to, because they're popping up in it's not just about, here's a business model, but it's also, here's how to handle all of your marketing. You never have to talk to anybody ever again. Here's how to handle all of your, you'll never have to hire anybody again. I mean, just follow this program. So,
right.
Yeah. It's definitely, I definitely have seen a spike in it. It's getting worse.
Yeah. I think it is, particularly because of the online space. People can pretend to be anything and do anything. And if you have nice pictures on Instagram, you can pretend that you're always on the beach, or you're always traveling, and life is always beautiful, and there's never any problems. And it looks good. So of course you're going to buy into it if you haven't been burned. Or maybe you're in a desperate spot, and that thing sounds like, wow, that's the answer to my prayer. Let me jump in on that because it looks good, and the person's good at selling it. But understand, I think the thing that people need to understand, that I could say I didn't understand either in the beginning, is you can't really up level to, say, the 6-figure world, the 7-figure. You can't really do that and stay the same person that you were, that maybe worked for someone else, maybe worked for corporate, maybe was just making 4 figures or 3 figures or whatever you were doing. You can't suddenly jump up to this other level and stay the same person mentally and emotionally. And now I'm just going to go stay at the beach and I don't know what you're doing there, because someone's got to run the business, and just keep making money and nothing changes but your bank account. Kerry and I both interviewed people for our podcast, and they'll tell you what they have to do as they are growing, or if they're at a certain level. I think, Kerry, a lot of also what annoys me is people promise this idea of consistent income like you have a job. You have any thoughts around that? Because I think we know business isn't like that.
Well, honestly, yeah. And, well, jobs are a whole separate topic clearly. But, it's still, I think people make the mistake of thinking, again, entrepreneurship, oh, I can take off when I want. Well, that's true. But, when you're not working on your business, you're not getting paid.
Right.
When you take time off, I just recently worked with a new entrepreneur who she had left her corporate job, and so far this year she has taken 2 vacations, and she's struggling with her business. And I told her, one of the first things I said was, why did you take 2 vacations this year? You just started your business. That's just that, but it's a corporate mentality that, oh, I have vacation time, well, I have these planned. Well, when you start a business, everything's different.
Yeah.
It's never a straight line. You have to do things differently. And if, and again, I guess the thought process was, oh, well, I just have to put some time into this, 6 months it'll get going and I'll be okay. No, it doesn't work that way. You just have to you got to put more time and effort into it. And taking time off, like I said, it's not that you can't do it, but it's just like Jim Palmer told me one time when I interviewed him. He's a business coach, and like he tells people, he said, yeah, I can take off whatever, I get to choose when I want to work, which 80 hours each week I want to work. That's totally up to me. But basically telling people, make no mistake about it, I work 80 hours a week. So, it's kind of that same thing. But again, so many people want to paint that picture. It's just like I look at books like The 4-Hour Work Week, and I know that's more geared towards direct sales, but same thing. I know people in direct sales who make a ton of money, but again, they're working a lot.
Yeah.
If they do go to the beach, they're bringing their laptop or they're bringing their, their iPhone, and they're working on their iPhone. And, they're still getting up early in the morning. They're meeting with people. They are not sitting on the beach drinking out of that coconut and not doing any work and having everything on autopilot. It's such a unrealistic picture, but I think people do buy into it. I think it's desperation, number one. And I think it's that dream. The only people I know, honestly, that can take time off and do whatever they want and not have to work, they have either won the lottery, like they're actual lottery winners, or they have invested or they've inherited a large sum of money and they don't have to work. They're managing their money fine, but they put themselves in a position where they do not have to work.
Right.
Being an entrepreneur, that is just not going to happen. Even if you have a ton of people that are working for you, those people at the top are still working a lot. Yeah,
they certainly are. And, even if you're hiring someone else to do it, you have to know what they're doing and you have to know what money's coming in. And chances are you have to be signing the checks to go out. And hopefully you're involved in looking at what's happening with your business, because businesses don't exist in a vacuum. Your business is going to be affected by everything going on around it. So that money that you're getting today may dry up next week because something changed in your market or your industry or related industry. So you can't talk about consistent income that just comes in and I don't have to do anything else.
We'll be right back after this short break.
Hi, this is Deborah. Not only am I host of Women Entrepreneurs Radio, but I'm also a writer and coach. I've learned that making professional changes calls for a change in mindset, and that's not always easy to do. In my book, Think Like an Entrepreneur, Transforming Your Career and Taking Charge of Your Life, you'll learn the 5 steps to thinking like an entrepreneur so that you can move from idea to action. You'll also get information on how to manage fear of failure and how to banish self-doubt. And you'll receive lots of motivation to pick you up and point you in the right direction when you're facing the emotional and mental challenges that come with making life changes. In fact, one reviewer said, the book gave me ideas to match with my own feelings. This book is clear, straightforward. All tips are really good and easy to apply. I couldn't agree more. So get your copy today of Think Like an Entrepreneur, Transforming Your Career and Taking Charge of Your Life. It's available in print, ebook, and audiobook on Amazon www.pageantry.com.
If you're the face of the business, then you always have to be the person out there doing it in some way, which is work. It's not, it's not just you and some bots. Mm-hmm. It's like, I just have my bots answering people. That's not it. If someone's
wearing your space pants.
I know. Yeah. That's just not, I don't care what anybody tells you. It's not it. So anybody is telling you, well, we're making so much money now. We only make 3-4 hours a week. Well, question who's doing the work. Ask them who are they paying, who's doing the work. Because someone is. Maybe it's not them, but someone is somewhere doing the work to bring in that money. So be very careful about what you're investing in. I mean, I know, Kerry, I had recently talked to someone. I'm not sure if I chatted with you about it, but someone was trying to sell me a program. And they went, she went through a whole presentation for like an hour, how much you want to make, blah, 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 blah. And then at the end, finally, I'm like, well, how much does it cost? And she waited till the last minute and she's like, oh, it's $15,000. And, I'm thinking, and yeah, when I saw our topics we were talking about, this was making me laugh. Cause I'm like, well, we just talked. This is the first time we've talked. Mm-hmm. And now in our conversation, I'm just supposed to handle $15,000 to you.
Well, and I think too, that's another thing that's involved with it, Deb, is that one call close, or, I only have to talk to you one time. That what they call the timeshare close.
Yeah. Oh
that is prevalent with these people. And, and again, it's like, and I get and I understand what their thinking is. They're thinking, okay, well, this person's been on my email list for a year. They've been getting my emails. They're connected with me on social media. They've heard all about me. They filled out the form and they went through the, video that I sent them, and they kind of like they're getting you all set up that if you do decide to speak with them one-on-one over the telephone or in front of each other, mm-hmm. that, okay, yeah, your program's over $5,000, that you have that money sitting around and you can just write them a check and that's the end of it. Mm-hmm. And I call it the timeshare close because those are the one call closers that, they've had you there, you've stayed at the resort, you're there on your last day, you've done a 4-hour tour, which is worse than the Gilligan's Island tour, and then you go through that and then it's like they get you in front of them and it's like as long as they can get $200, $300 out of you and lock you into that deal, it's done. Because they know if you ever come back, you're not going to do it, because it's just been way too much high pressure. So, and again, that doesn't work either. Yes. Some people, it takes longer for them to make a decision. Some people, they might have to, even though they are a business owner, maybe they went into business with their spouse or they went into business with another partner. They have to discuss that. It's not a box of popcorn. Mm-hmm. Clearly. Mm-hmm. I mean, you think about it. If you had, and just to kind of give everybody an idea, if you had an extra $5,000 sitting in your bank account that free and clear, okay, mm-hmm. that you could do whatever with, would you really want to put that towards this program that somebody's pitching you?
Right.
Because you think about what $5,000 can buy. $5,000 could take you and a friend over to Europe and back, for a week's mm-hmm. trip. Mm-hmm. $5,000 could be your 80-20 copay split for, if you had to have surgery done. Mm-hmm. And you're responsible for 20% of your hospital bill. That could be the $5,000. That $5,000 could be a down payment on a luxury car. It could be a down payment on, in some cases, a condo or townhome, mm-hmm. Depending mm-hmm. upon. So, I mean, when you look at it in terms of that, then clearly only talking to you that one time and asking for that money is a little stupid. That's in my opinion. Yeah. Now, it's just like with what we do, typically if I'm talking to somebody, and again, it's the same thing. I don't have people most of the time. They want to think about it, or I tell them, I don't even ask them. I usually don't even close. Usually if they're interested, they close themselves. What's our next step? Which is mm-hmm. great. But my programs that I do, for media and speaking, it's first month it's $294. After that, it's $147 a month or mm-hmm. something around that that realm. So it's definitely a lot cheaper. We don't do a contract. So it's like if they're not happy, they can cancel future billings. It's a much different thing.
Right.
So, but again, I don't push it to close right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually do follow up with people. But it's the same thing. Now I know if I came up with another program or some type of retreat and I was charging that much money, I better have a really good reason. I mean, that $5,000 should include, that should be, 4 days or 4 nights at a luxury resort. It should include your airfare. It should include, there should be other things that it's including other than just that information that they're buying.
Right. I agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, and again, but see, that's not what most of these people are doing. They're selling duplicatable programs that, for lack of a better expression, they just don't work.
Mm-hmm.
They don't work.
Yeah, that's a good point too. That's an excellent point.
And to throw this out there too, because I made a note when you were talking before, even though we're telling people to be wary of this because it is becoming a problem, the flip side of this, Deb, that I don't think we've covered yet is personal accountability. Because that still does play, when you buy into a program like this, and I want to get your thoughts on this, because you think about it, okay, somebody signs up for this, they pull money out of their savings, they pay $5,000, and 6 months later it's not working. They're having difficulty. So I want to talk about the personal responsibility of the person who bought the program.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of people will get up and say, well, this person screwed me out of all this money and I'm going to report them. Well, that may be well and true, but you have to look back and say, okay, what part did I play in this? Number one, how much research did I do from the get-go? How much time did I say I would put into this? Did I really look to see if this stuff is really working for other people? Have I talked to other people who have done similar programs? And testimonials, I throw those out the window anyway, because anymore you can't tell if they're real or not. So testimonials, I don't even think should play a role in this, but personal accountability. And, then I look at the last thing. I think some people, they wait till it's too late. 6 months is too late. You have to sit down and say to yourself, okay, I'm going to give this program 3 months. And if I don't see anything, I think 3 months is enough time if I really put my time and effort into it. If I don't see anything, then I'm going to stop and I'm going to ask for a partial refund. And maybe even saying that to the person you're buying it from. What are your thoughts on that with personal accountability, with things like this?
I think that is really excellent, because it's not something that anybody ever talks about. To be honest with you, we don't really talk about that. As far as being a personal accountable to what you're doing, to yourself, in terms of, your business, and to yourself. To look at it and say, okay, what's the time limit, I guess you could put on how long I'm going to try to work this, what are the parameters, what are the boundaries I'm putting on this to see if this is something that's really working for me, is it achieving my goals? I totally agree, because I think that's another thing in business as well that you don't see talked about, is the idea that in a business you have goals. You may have a forecast for this quarter or this month, that you want to achieve, what numbers you want to make. What's your forecast for the year? What have you done? What are you going to do? Your income balance sheet, all that stuff is a part of business. But if you're not looking at what you've achieved, you're not looking at what you want to achieve, you're not looking at your bank account, you're not looking at, okay, if I don't reach this point, by this amount of time, I need to reevaluate this program or this choice I've made. And I think a lot of times we don't do that because we hand everything over to this so-called expert who swears that they have the answer, who's living a certain way, because they're always showing how they're living, because that's part of what they're selling. I'm living in a beautiful big house, or I do what I want all the time, or I have this,
I'm on the beach with a coconut.
Right.
Yeah.
I have all these things, or I'm going to have an event at this luxury resort. All this stuff that looks really great and wonderful. And, or calling it a freedom business, which are two words that don't belong together, in my opinion. Freedom and business, because you're going to business, you're not going into business for freedom. I'm sorry, but you're not. They say all the words that are triggers for us. If we've been in corporate and we can't stand it, we feel like we're looking for our position, our place. We feel, yes, I can do my thing that's my purpose, my calling, and yet I don't like being within these structures and constrictions of corporate, or maybe the boss who's giving you a hard time, the company that you hate, all that stuff that a lot of us can identify with. So they put those words out there to trigger us to say, yes, I've got to chart my own course. And if you really believe it's that easy, if I only just had the right words to put in an email, the right words to put on my website, the right bot to sell people without me having to sell, because selling is scary and I don't know how to do it. So the bot will do it for me and I'll still get paid consistently. I don't have to do anything. It sounds good if you don't understand what business is about. And I'm not saying that as a knock, because I didn't get it either. How would you, unless you've been trained in it, or something that you or your family maybe was entrepreneurial, or some kind of way that you understand business involves more than that. So all that sounds really plausible, sounds really good. But I think, Kerry, at some point, people, and I know I could speak for myself as well, will you kind of hand over the responsibility to that person? That now is going to tell you what you should do and when is it enough? And I guess it never gets to enough because there's always another program to pay for.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's always another program. There's always another level to the program.
Yeah.
So when do you ever get there?
And I think the answer to that question is you don't, but they will, because they're collecting all this money.
That's so true. That's so true. I think that's another thing as well. But I just wanted to go back a second to when I was talking about freedom in business. The thing is, when you have a business, it's a lot of work. And that's what we're saying. It's work. And if you wanted to even compare it like to you compare it to working for a corporation, a corporation, there's pros and cons to everything. But, when I share my story with people, Deb, and I tell them about when I first started my business back in 2005, I worked for a full year. I worked part-time in the evenings to save up money. When the day finally came, when I put in my 2-week notice, I was excited. It was that Friday, my last day. I was sitting here thinking, okay, I'm free. I'm not going to have to, work for this company anymore. And then Monday morning when I woke up, like I said, it was kind of like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? Because it was like a wave of panic. But I mean, still, that was 14, 15 years ago. I would not change anything differently, because even though like my worst day as an entrepreneur, I wouldn't trade it for my best day in corporate because it works for me. But, it's just like when you have a job, you're held accountable to your boss and to your department heads. And, but it's just, when you're an entrepreneur, you're held accountable, whether you want to say you are or you aren't. You have to hold yourself accountable, number one. And two, you are held accountable, your customers and your clients, because ultimately you're making money because of them. Yeah, that's true.
And believe me, and I've had it happen, if they're not happy and they leave, you got to replace that income, and it's not that easy. It is easier to keep the people you have with you, keep them happy, because it's recurring money coming in, rather than having to go out and replace that.
Right. Yes.
But when you think that you're free, you're free. Yeah, I mean, people are thinking, free from the corporate cogwheel or whatever they want to call it. I mean, it's just, but in the reality is, you still have to work. Yeah. You're not getting around that.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. People have this idea that they're not really working. Because if they're working for themselves, I guess they figure they're not really working. So it's not the same thing.
Well, it's just like today's a great example. Today is Sunday. Now, prior to me getting on the call with you and doing our recording, I was doing submissions. So I might be in my pajamas and I might be at home sipping coffee, but I'm still working. Clearly I could not go in. If I was working at a corporate job, I'd have to get dressed and put on makeup and drive to another location and clock in and then do that work. But, so there are trade-offs, but make no mistake about it. I think if you really sat down, and I've done this before, where I have actually kept track of my time, and I can honestly tell people, I don't think there's ever really been a week where I've worked less than 60 hours. Now, some of those hours I may have been doing like late at night, like 2:00 in the morning. I mean, there are times when we have to produce our magazine when we're on deadline. And if I'm feeling really creative, I continue to work. And there are times that 4:30 in the morning, I'm finally done. So yeah, do I sleep in that morning? Of course I do. But do I get up and get back at it? Yeah. I mean, but it's just, like I said, I love what Jim Palmer had shared that one time. He said, I get to pick and choose which 80 hours of that work week I'm going to work. Because literally you are working 60 to 80 hours a week.
Right. You are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's, again, I think it's just such a misconception out there. And like I said, it's getting worse. I see too many people that are doing, that 4-hour work week book. I mean, people love, it's supposedly on the New York Times bestseller list, and it should be on the, here's a picture of what it's not list. And like I said, that was written for people in direct sales, but everybody I know who's super successful in direct sales, they're working a lot more than that.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of that was that person's experience, and it seemed like it relied a lot on outsourcing everything and all this sort of stuff. But I think what people need to realize is that a lot of times that people are telling you how to do something, and I've made this point in other shows, that they're going to make X amount of money telling you how to do something. But you may make a different amount of money actually doing the thing. Yeah. So someone telling you how to create a coaching program is probably going to make more money than the person doing the coaching program is going to make. If you're coaching individuals, you're not coaching business people, you may be coaching individuals or professionals. Depending on what level you're at, they may or may not be paying you that kind of money. So, but the person may be selling a business program, chances are is charging more money because they realize they can. And they may be teaching a whole host of other coaches how to be coaches or how to sell programs. But your particular program, depending on who it's geared to, you may not make those kinds of numbers. And if it's you doing the coaching and you're talking 6 figures, well, how much are you charging? And how are you delivering the coaching? And what's in your pipeline? How many people are coming in? How many people are going out? You can't just look at that 6-figure number and think, I'll get that from 1 or 2 programs. You have to be consistently launching then. How much money am I putting into launching? How much money am I putting into affiliates and all kinds of marketing and advertising and sales? They've got people managing their affiliate programs. But you just see that one website and that one thing, and you think, oh, that's what they're doing and they're making all this money, but you don't know the whole infrastructure that's behind it that they may not be telling you about because that's not what they're selling.
Right.
So I'm not saying people are being deceptive, but they've got their whole thing going that you may not understand, that may not fit what you want to do. So you're trying to fit your thing on top of their thing and then wondering why isn't it working the same way? Well, it can't.
Yeah.
And Kerry, the person offering me the program, they weren't even really doing any direct coaching. It was like videos.
Oh, I'm not surprised at all. Yeah. Because again, it goes back to that whole thing of we can teach you how to never have to even speak or look or talk to or hear from your current clients.
Right, which makes no sense.
It makes no sense, but it's not going to stop them from, selling that because again, and I think what it boils down to is that we have a lot of people out there who are not only, it's not just the selling part, but it's the servicing part.
Okay.
And, to me, it's like you might be an expert at what you're doing, but if you can't communicate and deal with your clients and help them, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot involved in business.
What is that song? It just popped into my head. More money, more problems.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you can't get any more detailed, hit the nail on the head than that. It's true. You're making more money, you're going to have more problems.
Yeah. And more expenses.
Mm-hmm.
More things to pay out, more people to manage it. You have the chances are you've got to have some, accountants and bookkeepers and all kinds of things and people working for you, and you've got to make sure things are being done properly. And then you're looking at new business coming in and how you can expand if that's your goal, or how you can maintain what you have. There's a lot involved in that. Not to scare you, but don't believe that I'll just hand over this money to someone who's going to solve all my problems for me.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be right back after this short break. Hi, this is Deborah. Have you ever wanted to make a change in your business, but you just didn't know where to start? Or you're trying hard to fit into maybe some other plan and thinking, this isn't really for me? Well, my new course, 5 Steps to Making Changes in Your Business, will certainly show you how to create your vision and line that up with your goals so that you can create the products and services that reflect who you are, how you want to show up in the world, and who you want to serve. You don't have to worry anymore about trying to fit into another blueprint or system that doesn't really fit you, but you end up sometimes making your business look like someone else's. I've been there. I wasted a lot of time before I realized what I really want to do and how I want to serve. And after writing my book, Think Like an Entrepreneur, Transforming Your Career and Taking Charge of Your Life, I always wanted to put that into an online course to share it with even more people. And I've done just that. So I hope that you will check out the course and take the free introductory class so you can find out for yourself if it's right for you. You can go to the website, secrets-of-success.teachable.com, or you can also find it by going to my website, dbaileycoach.com, and clicking in the menu bar where it says online courses.
Well, again, I mean, if you think about it this way, put yourself in that potential client's shoes. Okay, you want $5,000 of my money or whatever it is that you do. Let's just say that you do coaching and you only charge $500. So that potential client finds you on the site. They go through that. They're in their email drip program or whatever, and they're getting emails and they're seeing this and it's like, oh, sign up for my program and you're going to get all of this stuff. They never actually get to talk to you. There might be an issue that they're having that you could solve very easily for them.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not going to know that unless you talk to them.
Right.
So maybe that program that you just sold them would be a good fit for them, but you just got to tweak it for them a little bit. Like, hey, instead of doing this on page 94, do this instead.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it's just sometimes it's making that one little improvement or one little switch over or changing one little thing for that one client that's going to make everything work for them.
Right.
But when you don't want to have that conversation is 6 months into it when they've already paid you, $1,000 or whatever and the money's gone, you can't give it back to them anyway. They're mad because it's not working. They want their money back. It's too late.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to think about it in those terms because, like I said, and then too, sometimes there are people that you are not going to want to bring on board. I mean, you're going to want to rather set your hair on fire and run away screaming rather than bringing them on board because they are going to be what we would term as a nightmare client.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you are desperate for money, you still don't want those people. You don't want them. We've both been there, right?
I can't argue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're not going to know if they're a nightmare until you talk to them. And believe me, don't think for a second because you've got a program where you don't have to talk, speak, look, hear, smell your client. If they are a nightmare and they're mad, they're going to get in touch with you.
Oh, for
and
sure.
And it's not going to be pretty.
Oh,
yeah.
for sure. That's
so
for sure.
like I said, it's just they're popping up more and more. I hate to see it. I think we're going to start seeing regulations come in from the federal side. I hate to say it, but I think it's coming.
I don't know. It's just unfortunate. And when I see it, I just cringe because people are hearing things that aren't accurate and they don't really know how to build a really profitable business because they're being told it's so easy. It takes a few steps. They can have it all within months or weeks or days. and then just do no work at all, and it'll keep chugging along and keep making you money and keep being profitable consistently. And that's a word to be careful of, everyone, because the business is not going to be consistent for the reasons we've mentioned. There's work involved in keeping that going. It's not a business that you show up as an employee and you give a consistent check. It's not the same thing. So when you hear that, red flags should be going up in your mind as to how this is possible, and they should be able to break it down to you how they can achieve that for you. But they're just showing you videos and giving you PDFs. No, you don't need to go through all that to get to that place.
Well, and that brings up another interesting point, because we both have content, clearly. You have content as a business owner, so do I. Now, I have books available for sale. I have some audio products. And I find that people just aren't really interested in that. My own personal thing is that they're not interested in that. Now, but it's like, I look at, from a price point. I mean, for me, it's just like with the pageant coaching. I have a program. I don't really have anybody that signs up for it, but it's there if people want it. It's $6,000. And I'm based out of Florida, but if you live in Texas, that includes for me to fly out there. I will train you intensively for a week, one-on-one. That covers my hotel, my airfare. It's all inclusive. My expenses for being out there for a week. So I'm training with you every day, one-on-one for a week. You get all of that time. And then you get I think it's either 6 months or a year of virtual training where we're doing it through Skype after that. So it's kind of like you are getting part of my time for that. Absolutely. And I'm seeing where a lot of these people are selling and $5,000 to $6,000 seems to be the sweet spot for a lot of these people. So it's like, but it's the same thing. They're only doing, they're not even doing Skype coaching. It's just, here's all the information, you do it yourself.
Yeah.
And
I've seen that.
I'm sitting here thinking, I can't even imagine, even for all the content that I have, maybe pricing it at like maybe $500, I could see that, but I could not even imagine, even though it's very valuable content, I personally could not, and I guess it's from an ethics standpoint for me, to price it at that point. I mean, what do you think? I mean, do you think you'd ever have a program where you would be charging that much money? And what do you think, what would that look like for you as a business owner?
That's a great question. Actually, the same person I talked to with the $15,000 program was saying, well, you're teaching people in terms of writing books, and well, this person you work with, and they're making money or with their book, or that book now has enhanced them to get more speaking engagements and things like that. And looking at the value of that, okay, I had to agree that if you look at the value that you're providing to someone, not just by hourly rate, which I think a lot of times we get stuck in, but looking at what's the value this person's getting from your expertise and what's the value to them. So from that perspective, yeah, I can understand what she was saying as far as pricing. But the thing is, it depends on who you're going after. If you're in the publishing, a ghostwriter, let's say, could make in the thousands of dollars. 10, 15, 20, 25, whatever, thousands of dollars, because that's a major publisher that may be paying that ghostwriter to write some big name person's book. So it's worth it to them to make that investment. You're playing at another level. But if you're talking about the average quote unquote business person who may want a book that's now going to open doors for them for speaking, and credibility and media, yeah, that may have a long-term effect on their bottom line, but where are they in terms of being able to make that investment? Are you going to offer the same package to that person that you would offer to a corporation? that may be looking to hire you to write their book for this big name celebrity or a writer who has a name but isn't doing his or her writing anymore. I think the price point is going to be different that you're charging. And I think that's the thing, when it comes down to what you're charging people. And that's another, that probably could be a whole other topic. The pricing, what will the market bear for that? How do you say your expertise, what do you think your expertise is worth? To charge someone? who are you going for? I couldn't see offering that kind of program to someone who's just coming into business, just starting out. I would think they'd have to really start with some basics, and there's a lot of things they can access online without me saying, well, here, you got to pay me $6, $7, $8, $9, $10,000. That they could access to get them up to speed. Now, if you're working with them one-on-one, taking their hand and leading them through, and then you may say, well, this is worth X amount because this is going to pay off for you in your business exponentially. So yeah, it's worth it for you to make this investment right now. I think that's really tricky, Kerry. I really think it depends on if you're really providing, what value do you feel you're really providing to the person? Where do you think, what level you're trying to reach with what you're offering? But if you're just throwing numbers out there, like we're talking about, like the person telling me the $15,000 or what you were talking before, you're saying about like $10,000, $6,000, where people are just putting these numbers out here to try to get people into their pipeline, and they're not really offering anything other than some videos. I really think that's a ripoff.
Yeah. Well, and I'm thinking too in terms of, it's like what you talked about, like who you're giving this to, because I think at the end of the day, any of us, we could have top-notch information, which I think most of us do, but it's also too, and this is where I go back to say, if you're not working with these people in some regards, it's not going to work, because it could be the best possible information, but if that end user doesn't really know how to, they're still not getting it, how to implement it or how to make it work, it's not going to matter anyway.
No.
So regardless, if it's not working for the end user, then the value for them is zero.
Right. You're right.
Even though it could be an easy fix. So I think it is a tough question, but I do think it's something people need to ask themselves if they're going to do something like this, or participate in it, because like I said, it's, to me, it's like a program like that. Give it 3 months. If it's not working, then you've got to go back to them and say, look, this isn't working. Clearly I need to make a change. What could be, they owe it to you, I think, to brainstorm at that point, to say what isn't working. But most of them won't do it. They just won't.
Yeah, I don't think
it's kind of like you didn't follow the steps. You need the duplication thing. It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah, I agree, because I've been there myself, where the person's say flat out, they're not refunding any money. And you're like, wow, they're not even going to work with you, because the idea is just to get paid. Or this person, and I was like, I don't really have that money to invest. And they're like, oh, do you have credit cards? I'm like, that's the worst thing you could do. You should be saving those credit cards for like business things or emergency situations or things that you may have to do. Not just whipping them out for a program, because you can work one-on-one with good coaches and just pay that money just for those meetings or those one-on-one meetings, as opposed to paying all that just for some videos and a group call. Because they should be able to tell you what you're getting out of this, not just some vague promises.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it just goes down to it's kind of like, I'm going to sell this program, but and again, it's speaking is a good example with this, because there are so many speakers out there. Well, they still need to, there's still a system, where you have to apply for speaking engagements, but a lot of them don't want to go by that. They just want people to get referred to them. They want people to come to them. They want people to look at their profile. They want people to reach out to them. They don't want to have to follow the call for speakers that so many of the organizations have now, including private companies do that. So if you're not willing to follow direction, then it's not going to be a good fit anyway. There's going to be a disconnect there. They're not going to see you. You're not going to see them. And I think that there's a lot of people that go out there and sell programs and speaking saying, oh, you can make 6 figures. Same thing. You can sit on the beach and get the calls will roll in. And it just doesn't work that way. You still have to, there's the labor of doing it. You have to apply. And these people have been sold a bill of goods that they don't have to do that, and they do.
Right.
So
that's going back to what you said, Kerry. Really have to have the personal responsibility. Really have to see what was I trying to get out of this? Am I getting anything out of it? If not, maybe I need to go back and chat with this person, or maybe I need to find out, okay, if I do this with you, what are we talking about real result? Not just when, in 6 months you'll be on the beach, but what am I going to see dollar-wise? What am I going to see in my business that I wouldn't have seen if I didn't sign up for this? A lot of these claims are really good at saying, oh, you'll make all the money back within X amount of weeks. And they have all these testimonials of people who just magically made the money back right away. You can't depend on that.
You can't. Well, like I said, that's why I go back to what I said about referrals before. Referrals, you might as well just put them on paper, use it for toilet paper, because logistically, this could be people that they know. They could have spoken for free at an event and got all these great testimonials because they didn't pay anything for that information. Who knows? It could be their cousin that's doing it. I mean, you just don't know. It's just like job references. It's the same thing anymore. You can't go by the job references because you could be calling somebody that they put down that's saying they're the vice president of whatever, and you have a conversation with this person, but it could be their cousin Tubby that works at, Jiffy Lube that's on his lunch break. How would you know? You wouldn't. I mean, it's true. Think about it.
Oh my God. Well, you're right. You don't really know. You don't really know who you're dealing with.
And it blows my mind how many people will ask for referrals thinking that that's, all these other people, it worked for them. Well, yeah, and it didn't work for you. So clearly everybody's different. Everybody's business is different. You cannot go by that.
Right.
It's, and again, I go back to what I said before, personal accountability has to play a role in this too.
And Kerry, you're the sales expert. I would think there's some screening involved before you even get to that point.
Well, there is. I mean, I would say two things. You got to look at when you're talking to them, I think looking at things as a whole. Clearly, to me, if it's under $500, that could be a fairly quick decision if you have the money. Because like I said, if it's low cost, like I said, like what I do, what we sell, it's under $200 a month. There is no contract. You can cancel anytime. So there's a back door for there. If they don't have a back door for you, meaning you can cancel anytime, there's no contract. There's maybe the 30-day money back guarantee, or doing, offering something else that gives you that, what I call a back door, that, hey, if this isn't working for me, I have a way out. But, again, to me, especially in that $5,000 mark, if they're not giving you something to say, okay, well, if this doesn't work for you, if you cancel in the first 30 days, you get all your money back. If you cancel within 6 months, you get half, or, something where you're not totally losing out. Right. Believe in your program enough to know that and then having some guidelines set up with that and explaining that to people that, hey, this is our guarantee. This is what it is. Because again, they can provide, I don't care if they're video, because some people are like, well, they were video testimonials. Well, again, anybody nowadays has a video camera. You can record it on your phone. You could have 10 people that you're interviewing on video to say, oh, this is the greatest program, blah, blah, blah. But again, they could be your cousins, this person's cousin. They could be your best friend. They could be people that owe you a favor. They could, you can't buy into that. You still have to say, okay, I need to have a back, lesson number one, you do something like this, have a back door. If they don't have a back door available to you, then it's a scam.
You're right. That's a good point.
Because the testimonials don't mean anything. Written, verbal, gerbil, it doesn't matter. I don't care. Again, it's still, and a lot of times too anymore, like some people will have, a testimonial from I don't know, some bigwig, and more than likely they paid for that testimonial. I mean, come on, again, going back to the personal accountability, know better. That would be my second line of defense, would be have a back door. Secondly would be know better. Know that, hey, maybe, you can't take those referrals at face value. And even if they are working for everybody else, it doesn't always mean it's going to work for you.
That's the thing. That's the thing to keep in mind, because I think a lot of times if you feel like you're in a desperate place and you maybe the money's running low, you've got bills, it's scary, someone is showing you their beautiful life. I've been there too. I'm not scoffing. Yeah. I've been there.
We all have.
And it looks great, and you're thinking, maybe I'll give it one more try. Or maybe this person really does know something I don't know, and they can help me. But that's part of the selling process. It's part of the thing to draw you in, to kind of hit those things that trigger you to respond.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll buy this. And it's not, like I said, I'm not trying to say everybody's trying to get over on you or anything. Certainly not. But if you're looking at some of these programs that are making these big promises and asking for X amount of thousands of dollars, and you don't have real answers before you sign on that dotted line or you press that, button to send your credit card information, if you don't really have the nuts and bolts of how this works, do you get any of your money back if it doesn't work? Where's the accountability? Are you learning how to actually build a business and maintain it and run it? I'm not talking about actually, find a place on the beach. I mean, actually build a real business that is what you want to build, not what they're building, but what you want. If you don't have answers to those questions, it's time to ask them.
Yeah.
How can people really build something or build a business, take all these different classes and programs and become experts across the board? Or do you think people should really start to prepare themselves to start to outsource those things as they go on?
Well, I think that's a twofold question. I mean, again, I don't think anybody should have everything on autopilot, clearly. Somebody's got to steer that ship. And if it's not going to be you, then you need to hire someone that you really trust with your life that's going to do it for you. In the beginning, clearly you're going to be doing everything yourself. And yeah, I think as much as you can automate, yes, but know that there's a limit, like your leads programs. I mean, clearly you're bringing in leads early on, you need to be getting on the phone with these people. Do some discovery, see if they're a good fit for you, that you're a good fit for them. Talk to them. That's the only way you're going to really know if you can help somebody, is to sit down and have that conversation. So, once you start, automating as much as you can, within reason, that it's not taking over the entire process, because that I think is when you really find that's that churn and burn mentality that, yeah, you might be getting 30 leads in every month, but if only 1 or 2 of them are booking appointments with you, there's a problem. Clearly. So you got to go back and look at that. And then, at some point, yeah, you should outsource, but that's as you grow and you're making money. And you have the funds to outsource. I mean, if something is $200 a month, but it's going to actually free up your time to do the things that could make you $1,000 a month, then yeah, invest in it. Yeah. But that is something you should not be doing out the gate. Like I said, I think it's a variety of things. I think there's people come in with what I still say the 4 elements. There's their expectation of how things should be, their education level of, I've learned this much about it, and their experience level, which is usually 0. They have no experience at all in dealing with whatever this is that they're doing, or they're brand new entrepreneurs. And then the execution of how they deliver things. All 4 of those elements have to be aligned. You need to do your research, do your due diligence. The only way you're going to get experience is by jumping in there and doing it. But your expectations and, how you execute things are big things. And those are mindsets right there. And again, if all you're doing is reading books on how great entrepreneurship is and how easy it is, and you can be sitting on that beach and only having a 4-hour work week, you already have an expectation that isn't going to happen. So everything that you do is going to blow up anyway, because it's not going to work. And then, like I said, the execution of it, if you think that you're going to automate everything, and I'm not saying you can't, you can definitely, I know people that pay around $5,000 a month to have everything automated, but they're also still staying pretty involved in that business. They're jumping in at some point out of that automation, like with their leads, they're jumping in early on. They have a process set up, but they're still being involved. It can be done, but early on, no, you'd be wasting $5,000 a month to do that because you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's true.
And let's not forget the almighty funnel. If I have one person tell me, and I talked to one the other day that was screaming at me going, if you don't have a sales funnel and a sales process, you're never going to make it. And it's going to be all downhill. And I'm like, I've had my business for 14 years and I don't have a funnel and I'm not planning on getting one. I said, I get tons of leads that come in.
Yeah,
Thanks, but no thanks.
One.
Oh, the funnel. And I'll tell you what, for those of you who have not had any experience with Infusionsoft or salesfunnel.com or what, that ClickFunnel,
Yeah.
Spend about that, be prepared. That's going to be a month or two of pulling your hair out. Sorry, but there's no nice way to put it.
Yeah, there's a lot of chatter around that. That's major. But like I said, if you're going to make your career just doing Facebook ads, then maybe stuff like that's important to you. But that's not for everyone. Yet again, it's not for everyone.
I forgot about the Facebook ads.
Oh, that's a whole other thing.
Worst $5 I ever spent in my whole life. I should have went down to McDonald's and gotten that quarter pounder that day, because I'll tell you what, I would have gotten more enjoyment out of that.
Yeah, I think overall, just be careful about following what different people are saying. Take it in, look into it for yourself, see if there's something you can work with. If not, but don't make investments right out of the gate in anything. Probably wrap this up.
Well, my thought, just like what you said, and I think, personal accountability definitely needs to, clearly when you're looking at programs like this, you need to play your part too, be proactive. And again, I think just the expectations, it's a mindset, and just knowing that this is not going to happen overnight. You are going to have to work really hard. There are no shortcuts. There is no automating success. Yeah.
That's very true. There are none. I wish there were, because then we'd all have found it by now.
Well, yeah. And, like I said, it's just really not, just thinking about, again, you have to look at what's going on. I mean, you have to really stay accountable for your success. And like I said, if you do buy into a program like this and you've already bought into it, you've lost money, cut your losses and let it go. And just know for the next time of, hey, this is what I've learned, and take that into the next experience. But don't try to keep making what hasn't worked work, because the harder you try doesn't mean it's going to work. I mean, you have to cut your losses, let it go, and move on.
Mm-hmm. And don't don't feel bad that you're a terrible person or you're stupid or, we've all been there. That's why we're having this conversation. We've all been there. We've all gone through this. Anybody who's been in business long enough will tell you things they've invested in or worked at or tried to do and didn't really work out. So this doesn't make you a bad person. Not at all.
Exactly.
It's just part of it, unfortunately. But I know, and I'm sure Kerry, just about everybody has known people who really couldn't afford to lose what they've lost. So that's, we're just kind of hoping that you take that to heart and not be one of those people who then get stuck. And then it's like, wow, now what do I do? Because I thought this was going to work and it didn't, deliver what I needed. So just take all that in. And, I think that, we've covered this wonderful topic for now. I'm sure this will probably be ongoing, because there's always going to be, some other trend or something that goes on.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, okay. Well, I guess, we've covered that. So, once again, some Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your hosts, Deborah Bailey and Kerry Heaps. So thank you so much for joining us, and hope that you will join us again next time. And talk to you later. Bye-bye now.
Thanks for joining us. You can also join in the conversation on Facebook.com/Women Entrepreneurs and on the website, WomenEntrepreneursSecrets.com. And don't forget to listen in on dvcoach.podomatic.com and on iTunes.